Telling my story.
Yeah, go on. When you're ready.
I was working, I had a job when I left school. I worked 6 days a week and I was going 7 and 6 a week then.
That was quite a
And
lot then, wasn't it? 7 and 6?
Not very much for 60 hours.
60 hours a week?
48.
Yeah.
And my friend wanted me to join the territorials all the time, which I didn't want.
Yeah.
I was a Navy man.
You wanted to go in the Navy, didn't you?
My brother was in the Navy and the sailors used to come to the home. And he kept wanting me to join to go on that camp. And I thought I would do. I did do eventually. We went to camp. And on the last day of the 14 days we were there, we went to Weston-super-Mare. The last day we went on a route march, and when we came back the Sergeant Major got us lined up and says, "You're not going home, you're in the army now, war's been declared." And I thought, oh, my Navy days are gone.
Your Navy days never started,
No,
did they?
never.
Yeah.
The last day of that camp, war started. We went to France in November, and I think in France, I reckon there was anything up to 15 or 20,000 territorials.
Yeah.
I didn't know which end of the rifle a bullet came out of. I had no training of any sort. And we flapped about in France for a while. And then my first taste of war was a very unpleasant one. When we went to Satan's there and we slept on the deck on the floor.
Yeah.
And next day everybody was lined up outside the doctor's office. We had every disease going that you could get from insects.
Really?
So the sergeant put his hand up and he said, "Can anybody drive a motorcycle?" And my hand went up before he'd finished, and I'd never been on one. But I thought, if I go down, we had to go down this lane, if I went down in the same gear and came back in the same gear, he wouldn't know any different. So he said, "Right, you're our dispatch rider." So I learnt my lesson then, because we travelled to North France from Satan's there, and it was freezing, winter 39. It was snow everywhere, ice everywhere, and I'm on a flipping motorbike. I'm going to do 300 mile on it.
Right, so you could ride it by the time...
I trained myself, yeah. It was my own on that motorbike.
Yeah.
And things happened. What my job was, I used to pick up, they give me 15 lorries,
Yeah.
and I had to stand by a quarter of a mile off the front line with a particular captain, and he would call me. He had to pick 500 or 600 troops up from A, take it to D,
Yeah.
B to C, F to, you know. It was a long line, our front line, and there wasn't enough troops, so I used to do it 3 or 4 times a day.
And then you ended up in North Africa, didn't you?
Yeah, the war started in December. The war started in France, and we were faced with 300 tanks coming at us.
Yeah.
Coming through the end of the Maginot Line was a forest, and our war criminals, that's what I call the British government then,
Yeah.
our war criminals decided in their brains again, no tanks are going to come through that forest. And that was all wrong. They came through, they smashed the French in a week. They smashed the Belgians the following week, and there was only us left. And the only thing I remember about it is 300 tanks and dive bombers coming towards us. And all we had was a rifle and 50 rounds of ammunition.
Yeah, and that was the unequal struggle, wasn't it?
And I thought, which people doesn't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought, we thought our tanks were coming up and help us now, but there weren't any tanks. Our planes will come, there wasn't any planes. What do you do facing them, such a mighty force?
So how did you survive that? How did you survive?
going back and back. And when we started retreating, we didn't stand a cat in ass chance.
Mm.
And we were sat in a grass verge one day, and the sergeant came out and he says, I'm going to tell you something, being territorial you may not understand. He says, if anybody wants to leave here now, you can go wherever you want. There's no, you know, do what you like, go where you like. But there's always a but in there. He says, there's a Welsh company about a quarter of a mile away fighting a rearguard action to where we were. And he said, if we aren't there when they get there, you know, it's going to be bad for them. So nobody moved when he said you can go, not the person moved. He went away. He came back 10 minutes afterwards and he says, I'll tell you something else you may not understand now. He says, it's every man for himself, which means you are no longer in the British Army. You're a civilian. You can go where you like, you can do what you like. And there's a bit of much, you know, they brought us here, what the hell did they take us home? But he said, he said, if you go to get to the main road, it'll take you into Dunkirk, and there'll be British ships there to bring you home. So we started wandering off in groups of twos and threes. We got onto the main Dunkirk road, and he couldn't walk on it. Everybody that went on the Dunkirk road with traffic of any sort had been instructed to smash it so that the Germans couldn't use it. So we started going back. We had lads surrendering. I've seen them shoot them.
Mm.
No ammunition. It's like that all the way back. And I don't know if you recall, it's a story worth mentioning today to the people of this country. There were 60 men surrendered, and the German officer marched them half a mile away from the line down. He put them in a barn, then he instructed his men to throw their bombs in.
Mm.
They bombed that barn. Anybody that was left alive in it, they went in and shot them.
Mm.
What a death. Blown up.
So did you retreat at Dunkirk then?
This was the retreat.
Yeah, so it was part of the retreat, yeah.
There was one man in that 60, crafty little devil. His mate was laid across him, and all he did was take the blood off his mate's face and pour it on his own, and when the Germans got near him, he kept quiet, and they missed him. He waited in there till about midnight. He got out and he's in France. He only had to go south a bit. They sent him to Switzerland and he brought him back to England. 9 or 10 years ago, there was a person in Austria that was going to become the president of Austria within a matter of 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And his photo was splashed all over our papers and all over our televisions, and that man is still alive, and he says that's the officer that murdered 59 of my mates.
Really?
This is only 10 years ago, and the government of the day decided it was so far back it's hardly worth pursuing it. The man disappeared. Instead of shooting him, he disappeared.